Okay, so let's dive right in. Why do so many new businesses, seem to hit a wall in that first year?
Yeah, it's a tough landscape out there.
The numbers are pretty stark, right? Something like 90% of startups fail.
Yeah.
And a big chunk of those failures happen in that critical first year.
And that's why I think this deep dive is so crucial for folks.
You're gone. Okay.
Whether they're, thinking of starting something themselves or, just want to kind of understand, the dynamics at play when it comes to launching something new.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to just throw statistics around,
Mhm.
But what we want to do today is really go deep
Yeah.
and understand what are the underlying causes,
Yeah.
of those early failures.
Yeah.
And even more importantly, to sort of equip our listeners with, what they can do
Right.
to increase their own chances of success.
Yeah.
So we've got a wealth of, information and sources and stuff that we're going to try to distill for everyone today.
Yeah. And we've got some great advice from experts in the field
Absolutely.
and I think we should jump right into it.
Yeah. And looking at what we've got, 5 key themes consistently emerge.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to talk about lack of market need, running out of cash,
Right.
poor team dynamics,
Yeah.
lack of focus, and ineffective marketing. So where should we begin to unravel this?
Well, I think we should start with probably the biggest threat to startups, and that's lack of market need.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's a difficult thing for founders because 42%, according to CB Insights,
Wow.
of startup failures are due to this this lack of market need, and so it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears going into something, and then you put it out there, and no one's really biting.
Yeah, it's like spending, weeks perfecting a recipe that everyone politely refuses to eat.
Yeah, it's
Correct.
kind of a hard pill to swallow.
And it seems to stem from, I guess entrepreneurs falling in love with their own idea
Right.
so much that they don't actually validate it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. They fall in love with the solution that they come up with and forget to kind of think about, is there a problem out there
Yeah.
that people are actually feeling,
Does it resonate
Yeah.
with anybody but themselves?
Yeah. And a classic example of this is Juicer.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so they had this really sleek,
Wasn't that the one where you had to use their juice packs?
yeah, you couldn't put your own fruit in it.
Shouldn't just throw an apple in there.
No, it was all, prepackaged.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they raised $120 million.
For a juicer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was cutting edge technology and it was very, kind of space age looking and everything. But
It was just squeezing a bag.
yeah, it was essentially squeezing a bag. And it turned out, people didn't want to pay, hundreds of dollars for a machine
Right. You can get a regular juicer for.
for way cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they ended up shutting down,
It's a cautionary tale,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So what would you say to someone who has, a promising idea, bubbling away in their mind, and they want to, make sure that they avoid, the juicero fate?
Well, the first thing is, really do your market research.
Okay.
I mean, and that goes beyond just kind of, Googling around.
Yeah.
You really have to go out there and talk to potential customers,
Right.
do surveys, interview people in depth, run focus groups.
I really get out of the building
Get out of the building.
and talk to people.
Talk to people, yeah, and get their feedback and find out, is this something that people actually want?
Mm-hmm.
And there are tools out there as well. You can look at Google Trends to see, what people are searching for.
Yeah.
You can run polls on social media,
Oh, that's a good one.
to kind of get a sense of what people are interested in. And don't be afraid to, just reach out to people and have a conversation and find out, is this something that people are actually, struggling with?
Right. And, it sort of brings to mind this whole idea of a minimum viable product
Right.
or an MVP. Can you sort of break that down for our listeners?
Yeah, an MVP is basically, the simplest version of your product
Okay.
that you can put out there, and it's not the full-fledged thing.
Right.
It's not all the bells and whistles, but it's enough to kind of get it out there and
Test the water.
test the waters and get feedback from early adopters and see, is this something that people are really responding to? And, it's important because, you don't want to spend all this time and energy
Yeah.
and money building something that no one wants.
Right. So it's about sort of dipping your toe in the water and testing the temperature before you commit to the full,
Yeah, exactly.
taking the plunge.
Yeah, and there's a great book about this called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Have you? Yeah. So it's all about this idea of, you know, measuring learning.
Hmm.
So you build something, you put it out there, you measure the feedback you get,
Right.
and then you learn from that and you iterate and you keep improving it. And you're constantly, pivoting and changing course based on what you're learning.
It's so important to be agile.
It is, yeah.
So I think the takeaway there is, you know, validate your idea.
Right.
Get an MVP out there.
Yeah.
Test the waters. Be prepared to pivot.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about another big stumbling block for new businesses, and that's running out of cash.
Mm.
I mean, it might seem obvious, but
So important, though.
it is, but the statistic is pretty crazy. 82% of business failures are due to cash flow issues.
I know, that's a huge number.
That's according to a U.S. bank study.
Yeah, it really underscores how important it is,
It does.
to have a good handle on your finances.
Right, so you can have a great product
You can,
that meets a need.
Right.
But if you run out of money
it's over.
before you become profitable,
It's game over.
that's it. It's game over.
Yeah. And you really need to think about, having enough runway
Hmm.
to sustain yourself.
Yeah.
And, really prioritize survival
Right.
over growth, at least in the early stages.
Absolutely. And we have a cautionary tale here, and that's pets.com.
Oh, yeah. Pets.com.
Remember that little sock puppet?
Oh, yeah. The sock puppet. How could you forget the sock puppet?
That was so memorable. So what happened there financially?
Well, they raised a ton of money,
Mm.
during the dot-com boom, and they were spending a lot of money on marketing and
Yeah.
and logistics, and they were really trying to grow really fast.
Yeah, and acquire customers.
Yeah, and acquire customers,
Yeah.
but the problem was
Yeah.
their revenue wasn't keeping up.
Right. So it's all about, revenue versus expenses.
Yeah,
Got to make more than you spend.
got to make more than you spent. Yeah, and so when the dot-com bubble burst and, they couldn't get any more funding,
Yeah, the money dried up.
the money dried up and they had to shut down.
And that was it for the sock puppet.
That was it for the sock puppet.
So for entrepreneurs starting out,
Yeah.
what can they do to avoid that?
Well, I think the first thing is, create a realistic budget.
Okay.
And I really want to emphasize the realistic part.
Yeah. Right.
A lot of times people are, overly optimistic.
Rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, rose-colored glasses. And so, you need to be conservative
Mm-hmm.
in your projections, overestimate your expenses,
Okay.
underestimate your revenue.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to come up.
You never know what's going to come up. And, it's always better to have a little bit of cushion
Yeah.
than to be, caught short.
Right.
And then the second thing is, if you can bootstrap.
Okay. Bootstrap, explain what that means.
Bootstrapping is basically funding your business yourself.
Okay.
So using your own savings or revenue that you generate and not relying on outside investment.
Okay. So really kind of keeping it lean.
Keeping it lean, yeah. Start small, grow organically, and, really avoid any unnecessary expenses.
Right. Do you really need that fancy office space?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you really need to, hire a bunch of people right away?
Yeah.
Can you do some of these things yourself?
Absolutely.
And really be mindful of where you're spending your money.
So it's about, needs versus wants.
Needs versus wants, yeah.
Those early days.
Yeah, and then the third thing is, secure multiple sources of funding.
Okay. So don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. So what are some examples of that?
Well, you could look at angel investors,
Mhm.
Who are, high net worth individuals who invest in startups.
Right.
You could look at crowdfunding,
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
where you raise money from a large group of people online.
Mm-hmm.
You could look at, small business loans, from banks or credit unions.
Right.
So there are a lot of different options out there. And, it's good to have a mix.
Yeah. Diversify that funding.
Diversify, yeah.
And for managing your money and finances, there's a book that our sources recommend called Profit First.
Oh, yeah, Profit First by Mike Michaelovich.
Yeah. And what's the core idea behind that book?
Well, it's kind of counterintuitive.
Go.
The traditional way of thinking about profit is that, you have your sales
Yeah.
and then you subtract your expenses.
Right.
And whatever's left over is profit.
Right. The old formula.
The old formula, yeah. But Profit First says, no. You take your sales
Okay.
and you subtract your profit first.
Interesting. So you pay yourself first.
Pay yourself first, yeah.
Wow.
And then whatever's left over is what you have to spend.
Okay.
And so it forces you to be really disciplined
Interesting.
with your spending because you know you've already allocated
A certain percentage.
a certain percentage to profit.
Okay, so it's a mindset shift.
It's a mindset shift. Yeah.
So, okay, next on the list of,
Mhm.
top reasons for failure is poor team dynamics.
Yeah, and this is a big one.
And the statistics are kind of scary.
Yeah.
65% of startups fail due to founder conflicts.
I know that's a lot.
And that's according to one study.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
clearly, the human element is just so critical,
That really is. Yeah.
right? So you could have a great idea,
Yeah.
ample funding, but if the team isn't working well together,
It's not going to work.
it's going to fall apart.
Yeah, it all falls apart. And startups are such a pressure cooker environment.
They are.
Right. So disagreements and conflicts are bound to happen.
Yeah.
But it's all about how those are handled.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just founder conflicts. It's
No.
also, making sure that you're hiring the right people who
Yes.
fit the culture.
Yeah. So cultural fit is just as important as, their hard skills.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and we have an interesting example here with Zynga.
Oh, yeah. Zynga, the makers of Farmville. Yeah, they didn't totally fail, but their experience really highlights the impact of poor team dynamics.
They had a lot of internal turmoil,
Yeah.
between the founder, Mark Pincus, and the management team.
Yeah. And high turnover.
Yeah. A lot of people were leaving.
And they kind of struggled to innovate after that initial success.
Yeah, they really did. It's a shame because they had so much potential.
They did.
But, it just shows you how important it is to have a cohesive team.
Right. Everyone pulling in the same direction.
Everyone pulling in the same direction, yeah.
So how can entrepreneurs foster better team dynamics?
Well, the first thing is, hire slow, fire fast.
Okay. So explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, so when you're hiring, you really want to take your time
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that you're finding people who are not only qualified,
Right.
but also a good fit for your culture.
Yeah.
Do they
Yeah.
share your values?
Do they share your vision?
Do they share your vision? Yeah, and are they going to be, a good addition to the team?
Yep.
And then on the flip side,
Yeah.
if you have someone who's not working out,
Right.
you need to let them go quickly.
Okay. So don't be afraid to.
Don't be afraid to. Yeah, because it's better to let them go and find someone who's a better fit
Yeah. Then to let it fester.
than to let fester. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it can really damage the team morale.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So slow, fire, fast. What else?
Yeah.
And then, communication is key.
Oh, yeah. Communication is always key.
Always key. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure that everyone is on the same page.
Mhm.
Have regular check-ins.
Right.
Give and receive feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And, just create an environment where people feel comfortable,
Yeah. Psychologically safe.
psychologically safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, to speak up and share their ideas
And feel heard
and
and
feel heard. Yeah.
and also, thinking about equity sharing
Yeah.
with key team members.
Giving people a stake in the company.
Yeah. Give them some skin in the game.
Yeah. And that can really, align their interests with yours. All right. So they're not just an employee. They're really a partner.
They're a partner.
And for this whole, team dynamics thing,
Mm-hmm.
there's a book that our sources recommend called The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Yeah. By Ben Horowitz.
So what can listeners learn from that book?
Well, Ben Horowitz is a very successful entrepreneur and investor, and who has been through it all.
You've seen it all.
He's seen it all. Yeah. And the book is basically his advice
Right.
on how to deal with the really tough challenges.
Yeah, because there will be challenges.
There will be challenges. Yeah.
So he doesn't sugarcoat it.
Is not sugar-coated, no.
So it's real talk.
It's real talk. Yeah, from the trench.
From the trenches, yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to our fourth, reason for failure, and that's lack of focus.
Yeah, and this is another one that, kind of trips people up.
Yeah, it's so easy to get distracted.
It is. Yeah, especially when you're first starting out.
Right. You have all these ideas and you want to do everything. You want to do everything. Yeah. And you see all these opportunities and
Yeah.
it's hard to stay focused on the one thing.
Right. And that can lead to, resources being spread too thin.
Yeah.
Inefficiency, burnout.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And a good example of this is Webvan,
Oh, yeah. Webvan.
the online grocery delivery service.
Yeah, they were way ahead of their time.
They were, but they expanded too quickly.
They did. Yeah. They went into all these different markets before they had really perfected their model.
Yeah, so they were trying to, conquer the world
Yeah.
before they'd even,
Conquered their own backyard.
yeah.
Yeah. And they burned through $800 million.
800 million.
$800 million in a couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah, and their logistics were just a nightmare.
It's hard to make that work.
It is. Yeah, and so they ended up going bankrupt.
So what's the lesson there?
The lesson is, focus on one thing
Okay.
and do it really well.
Yeah, master that.
Master it. Yeah, and then you can expand.
Then you can think about expanding.
Yeah.
But don't try to do too much too soon.
Don't try to boil the ocean.
Yeah, boil the ocean, exactly.
Yeah.
So how can entrepreneurs stay focused?
Well, I think that the first thing is, stick to your core mission.
Okay.
What is the one problem?
Yeah, what are you really here to do?
Yeah, what are you really here to do? And focus on solving that problem
Yeah.
for your target customer.
Right.
And then the second thing is, set priorities.
Okay.
You're not going to be able to do everything.
Right.
So what are the most important things?
And there are frameworks that can help with that.
Yeah, there are. There's the Eisenhower matrix.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Have you? Yeah. So it's basically a way of, categorizing tasks by urgency and importance.
Right. So you can focus on the things that are both urgent and important.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And then delegate or defer the other things.
Yeah, or just ignore them.
Yeah. Sometimes you can just ignore things.
And sometimes you can't. Yeah, and then the third thing is, avoid shiny object syndrome.
Oh, shiny object syndrome.
Shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
It is. Yeah. So as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
you're constantly going to be bombarded with new ideas.
Right. New opportunities.
New opportunities. Yeah. And it's easy to get distracted by those.
It's so tempting.
It is tempting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you need to have the discipline to stay
Yeah.
focused on your vision.
We're long-term vision.
Your long-term vision. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not get sidetracked.
Yeah, it's about saying no
It's about saying no
to a lot of things.
Yeah.
So you can say yes to the right thing.
to the right things. Yeah.
And the book that we recommend for this is called Essentialism.
Oh, yeah. Essentialism
Yeah.
by Greg McKeown.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
And what's the core message there?
Well, it's basically about, identifying the essential things in your life and in your business
Right.
and eliminating the non-essential things. It's so hard to do that, though.
It is hard, but it's so important.
It is.
Yeah, because, you only have so much time and energy.
Your bandwidth.
Bandwidth. Yeah.
So, okay, finally we come to ineffective marketing.
Yeah, and this one is kind of sad.
It is, because you can have a great product,
You can.
but if nobody knows about it,
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
It's like a tree falling in the woods.
Right.
Yeah.
So even the best products need a strategy
They do.
to reach customers.
They do, yeah. And a lot of startups, they either don't think about marketing.
Right. They just think, oh, if I build it, they will come.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come. But that's not always the case.
It's not.
Yeah,
And sometimes they just don't allocate enough resources.
yeah, they don't have the budget
Or expertise.
for expertise. Yeah.
And a good example of this is Quirky,
Oh, yeah, Quirky.
which was a crowdsourced invention platform.
Yeah, they had some really cool products.
They did.
But they really struggled with marketing.
Yeah. So what went wrong there?
Well, they relied a lot on user-generated content,
Okay.
which, can be great,
Yeah.
but it wasn't enough.
Right.
They didn't really build a strong brand identity,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't really have a clear message.
Right. So their marketing was kind of all over the place.
It was, yeah, and they just didn't reach enough people, and
Yeah.
so they ended up going bankrupt.
So what are some must-do marketing tactics for new businesses?
Well, I think that the first thing is, leverage social media.
Social media.
Social media is such a powerful tool.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can reach so many people
Yeah,
for, very little money
and build community.
and build community. Yeah. And create engagement,
Mm-hmm.
and really connect with your target audience.
Yeah, it's not just about broadcasting. It's about,
It's about having a conversation.
engaging.
Engaging.
Yeah.
And then what else?
And then SEO,
SEO, what is that?
search engine optimization.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so SEO is basically making sure that your website
Mm-hmm.
and your online content
Mhm.
is optimized
Okay.
so that when people search for things that are relevant to your business,
Mm-hmm.
you show up in the search results.
Right. So you're findable.
You're findable. Yeah. And there are tools that can help you with this.
Like what?
There's Google Analytics,
Yeah.
there's SEMrush,
Mhm.
and these tools can, give you insights into what people were searching for.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and how you can improve your ranking.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get more traffic
More traffic. Yeah.
to your website.
Yeah. And then the third thing is influencer marketing.
Oh, influencer marketing. That's a big one.
It is. Yeah. So influencers are basically people who have a large following
Yeah. On social media.
on social media. Yeah.
Yeah. Or,
Or
in their industry.
yeah, and their niche.
Yeah, and so you can partner with influencers
Okay.
to reach their audience.
And sort of leverage their credibility.
Yeah, leverage their credibility, right? Because they already have that trust built up
Exactly.
with their audience.
Exactly.
So you're sort of piggybacking on that.
Yeah, you're borrowing their trust.
Right.
Yeah.
And the book recommendation for this is Contagious.
Oh, yeah. Contagious by Jonah Berger.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating book.
And what can people learn from that?
Well, it's all about why things go viral.
Okay.
Why some things catch on
Mm-hmm.
and spread like wildfire
And others don't.
and others don't. Yeah, and Berger identifies 6 key principles
Okay.
that make things contagious.
Mm-hmm.
And these principles are, social currency,
Okay.
triggers emotion,
Mm-hmm.
public practical value,
Mm.
and stories.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you can incorporate these principles
Okay.
into your marketing,
Yeah.
you're more likely to create something that people will talk about
That's cool. And share.
and share.
So
Yeah.
we've covered a lot of ground today,
We have
right? And we've talked about the 5 key reasons why startups fail.
lack of market need,
Lack of market need.
running out of cash,
Running out of cash.
poor team dynamics,
Poor team dynamics.
lack of focus,
Lack of focus.
and ineffective marketing.
And ineffective marketing. And hopefully by understanding these pitfalls,
Mm-hmm.
Our listeners can, avoid them.
Increase their chances of success.
Increase their chances of success. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we got a couple other book recommendations for those who want to,
Continue learning.
continue learning. Right.
Yeah.
So there's 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
And it's about innovation.
It is, yeah.
And creating unique value.
Creating unique value, yeah.
And then there's Good to Great,
Yeah, by Jim Collins.
which is about how companies can transition from good to great.
Yeah.
And I think that's applicable
Yes.
to any business.
It is, yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Mm-hmm.
As you've been listening to all of this,
Yeah.
which of these challenges resonates most with you?
Yeah.
What are you struggling with?
Yeah.
Or what have you seen
Other people struggle with.
other people struggle with? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what can you do
Mm-hmm.
to address that?
Yeah.
What are some concrete steps
Right.
you
Of
could
course.
take?
Knowledge is power,
Knowledge is power,
but only if you use it.
but only if you use it.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, this has been fun.
It has been fun.
I always learn something from these.
Me too. And hopefully our listeners do too.
Me too.
Okay, see you next time.
See you next time.